What's going on, everyone? So if you're wondering why I normally don't wear my glasses in my new videos, it's because the ring light I've got literally just reflects off them and it's terrible. So yeah, I normally don't even wear them for my newer videos and stuff. I just take my glasses off and kind of go about it blind. But that is not the topic of today's video. Today's video is about everything that I have checked out for the year of 2020. So I've been doing this YouTube channel since about February, and we're in December. So I figured I'd cover all the different things that I've checked out. Now, this isn't going to be like certain things like the AR-9 that I shot that was fully auto, and the SCAR and things like that. Those weren't reviews. I was just doing something for fun, and I just wanted to film it while I was there. So that's not really part of this topic, but I'm going over specific guns that I did like in-depth, like checked out and stuff like that, and then also different attachments like lasers, lights, and optics, things like that. So because I'm covering all of those in this video is going to be rather long, but so let's just dive into it. I also thought it might be a good idea to do this video kind of before Christmas, because if you were on the fence about any of these products, like maybe you were wanting to give them as a gift for somebody else or something like that, I'm also going to cover my ultimate like decision on that item and whether I think it's worth buying for the money or if I think it's junk, which a majority of what I checked out was worth buying for the money. There was very few things that I was just like, no, absolutely don't buy it. But let's just go ahead and dive in that list now. So my very first video that was gun related that I did on this channel was the HG54R. I believe that was the right model. So that was the green laser made by ADE, and I ran that laser on the G2C, the G3, the TX22, and the Crisp Vector, and it worked well on the TX22 and the Crisp Vector. Those were both 22 LRs, and I had some zeroing issues with the G3, but I think I kind of resolved that into user error. So I had overcompensated with trying to zero, and I think I had to reverse it all back to like its factory 0 point in a sense, and then bring it back, and it like held zero. So I think that might have been a little bit of user error. And then the G2C, I had an issue with it where it fell off. Now ADE has contacted me and said that they actually have a model that is better for like the G2C lineup, so they're sending that to me to check out with the G3C and see how that does, but I haven't gotten that yet, so I haven't been able to make a video on that one yet. But yeah, so the HG54R, that little green laser is actually pretty good. It somewhat shows up in daylight. Most of the red lasers I checked out do not show up in daylight at all. So it somewhat showed up in daylight, and once I started getting it zeroed properly, it held zero pretty good. So it never really had any issues whatsoever on the TX22. I ran it for like 500 rounds in one day, using the laser on and off, and it stayed on zero, which TX22 was a 22 LR, but it did hold zero and stuff. And I think if I would have ran it on the G3 after that, it would have held zero too, because I tested it out some on other things and I didn't have any zero problems. But at that point, I already made those videos and I didn't really want to go back into making the same video over and over and over again. But yeah, so the HG54R by ADE, they went up a little bit on the price, which is kind of disappointing. I think it's okay for the money. I mean, if you're looking to get that, it's not a bad option, but for a very similar price than what an Olight PL Mini, I would rather have a flashlight over the laser. So the Olight PL Mini, I think, cost around 70 bucks, and the AD laser, last time I checked, was like 65. So I'd probably go with the Olight. But if you're specifically looking for just a laser and you don't want to spend a ton of money, it is a decent option. The second product I checked out on my channel was the TrueGlow TFX Pro tritium and fiber optic sights for the Taurus G2C, which then I put on the G3, and almost said G3C. There's too many G2, 3Cs, all that crap. But so I first put it on the G2C, then I put it on the G3, and on both of those handguns, it seemed to shoot low. Now, those sights were designed for the Millennium Pro G2, which apparently has a, I don't know if it's a Millennium Pro. Anyway, it's one of the older G2 models. So I think the sight height was a little bit different for that model, and they weren't technically designed for the G2C. They did fit, but they weren't designed for it. So if you're looking for sights, you could get those, but they're not spot on, so I probably wouldn't. There has been more, like Lakeline LLC has some sights that are actually cheaper. Those were really pricey. I probably wouldn't get them, but I mean, they worked for me. They were really nice sights. They just weren't designed for the handguns I put them on. So there's a lot of cheaper options you can get, like on Lakeline LLC and stuff like that. So that's probably the route I would go. So on this one, I'd probably say pass. It also doesn't help my front sight when it arrived. I don't know if the tritium vial broke in shipping. I'm not going to accuse it, but the front sight didn't work. And I paid 120 bucks for them. From day one, the front sight didn't work. It did not glow. I didn't test it before I put it on the firearm though, so it could have been my fault. I mean, that's a risk you take. But the front sight did not work, and they were not willing to help me. They basically said, you can buy the front sight, but it's going to be $60. I'm not spending $60 just for the front sight when I just spent like $110. So it's a hard pass for me. I don't necessarily think that I would rebuy those. Third thing I did was the Pink Rhino laser training round. That thing is actually really nifty. I even took it to the range and let some of the staff there check it out. It's really cool. So it's got a little button press on the back. So every time the firing pin hits it, it emits a laser out. And it lets you kind of indoor train with your own personal firearm. And it's a little pricey. I think it's about 40 bucks. But you save a ton of ammo, especially right now because ammo is really hard to get a hold of. So it's worth the money, and it really helps you be able to get your initial draw and then, you know, pulling your trigger and stuff on target, like gets you really trained up and how quickly you can draw and stuff like that. So it's definitely worth the money, and if that's something that you're into or trying to get somebody as a gift, I 100% recommend that item because that's one of my favorite things that I've bought. So the fourth thing that I'm going to cover now, there is 50 things on this list because I had to go through and write down everything because I wasn't, off the top of my head, I'm not going to remember all of these things. So there's 50 things. So I'm probably going to break this video up in either 2 or 3 videos. But so the fourth thing that I did was the 32 round Pro Mag for the G2C, which also works on the G3, which also works on the G3C. So that one I have a love-hate relationship with. It ran really good when I first got it for the G2C. I probably ran it, I don't know, 6 or 7 full mags through like the first day that I got it, and I had no issues with it. Then I started trying to fiddle with different types of ammo, and I started having jamming failures. I made a video of all those failures. So I started having failures. Then I pulled the spring out, pulled the follower out, oiled it up. Then it started running good again. And I brought it and then put it in the G3 at this point and ran about 4 different magazines through it with 0 failures. Then I let it sit for, I don't know, say a month or so. And then I went out shooting with some buddies and then had a failure in the G3. So the Pro Mag is a fun range toy. However, I don't think that would be something that I'd get as a carry option. If you got someone that just wants one for fun, I mean, it's not expensive. It's only like 25 bucks, so it's not a terrible thing. However, if you're looking for something as like a backup magazine, if you carry it or keep it in your vehicle or something like that, I'm not going to suggest this, just because if you ever needed to use it in a defensive situation, there's a good possibility that if you let it sit there and it's not freshly cleaned up and stuff, that you're going to end up having a failure. So I'm going to have to give this one a no. Then I did a video on glow-on sight paint. Now, I got the glow-on sight paint before I bought the True Glow TFX Pro Tritium fiber optic sights. So I bought the glow-on sight paint. That was like one of the first things I bought for my G2C. And it works. So if you really got to clean out the front sight, some people have recommended like kind of drilling out the front sight a little bit. The glow-on paint will stick in there, and it glows if you light it up or anything like that. However, they're not really what I would consider a good option for if you're looking for night sights. They don't necessarily give you night sights. For them to be relevant, you would have to, you say you're asleep at night, completely dark inside, and you need night sights to be able to see. Someone breaks in your door. You would have to pull out a light, shine your light on your sights for like 10 seconds, then they're going to glow. Well, in a realistic situation, that's never going to help you. If you sit there and you were to like focus on trying to charge up sights and stuff, there's a good chance you're probably, if they had ill intent when they came in here to attack you or something like that, yeah, you're not going to end up charging your sights. They're not going to work. So I guess you could use them to train at night, but then you're training with something that you're probably not going to use if you ran into a defensive situation. So they do work. They work exactly as advertised. However, they're not like having night sights, and I don't think that I would recommend that as like an alternative. But if you're just trying to have something to fiddle with to see if you really want to spend the money on some sights, they're not bad. I mean, you can get, I think on eBay for like $8, you can buy a little tiny thing of it and do your sights. So that's my opinion on those. I never did exactly a review on the G2C or the G3 specifically. I stepped right into the G2C versus the G3 and like which one should you get. Ultimately in that video, and I still stand the same way, now obviously we threw the G3C in the picture, so this changes things up just a little bit, but more or less, if you are looking for something to carry and a bigger like 4-inch barrel is going to be hard to carry, then the G2C or the G3C is going to be more the route that I would recommend going. Now, if you don't mind carrying a larger gun and or you're looking for something that you're going to use at the range a lot, the G3 is really good, and I feel like it felt a little bit better in the hands when shooting and everything, being that it's full size, and the felt recoil was a lot less on that versus the G2C and the G3C. So both of them are really good options, and that was ultimately what I was saying in the video. They're both really good options for the price, and so it just depends on what you're looking for. So that was my first like handgun, specifically about the gun videos that I ever made. First video of something that wasn't my own product that I did a video on. So I went down to Springs Red Gun Club and I rented their Glock 44, which is the Glock that is in 22 LR. And at the time, I didn't know what I was walking into because this had just released. A lot of people had said that they fail a lot, they jam a lot. One guy had a video, and I put it up in that video of it blowing up in his hand. Like, I don't remember exactly what happened, but it like slammed the side back and just smoke just started barreling out and everything. But so my experience with it, I had one failure to feed. Other than for that, it ran flawlessly. I think I put a little bit over 100 rounds through it, and it ran flawlessly, and I had no issues with it. So if you're looking like for a training gun and your carry is a Glock or something like that, like a Glock 19, because aesthetically it's about, I think it's identical to the size of the Glock 19, so it's a good training option. It's a little pricey. I think you get around $350, and I think that's even COVID prices, like $350. That's not terrible, but yeah. So the Glock 44, from my experience, actually ran pretty good. Some people in the comments have said that they have ran there's a ton and not had any issues, but apparently some of the beginning ones did. Maybe they changed that a little bit and made them a little bit more reliable. But so if you're looking for a 22 LR and you carry a Glock and that's what you want, Glock 44 is a good option to go to. But that isn't my favorite 22, but I will get into that in a little bit. Next gun I tested out that was a buddy's of mine that he let me borrow was the Heritage Rough Riders. That's that little 22 LR revolver that you can get at Academy Sports or wherever. I think you get at Academy, you pay like $150. You get other places, you can get it for like 100, 120. So it is a 22 that for plinking and stuff, it's really fun. It's very accurate. Sent the target down pretty far and stayed on shots pretty well. There's not a whole lot to say about it. It's good for the price. I mean, it's really cheap. So, I mean, if it's something you want to just kind of plink with and have fun with, absolutely. For the price, I mean, less than $150, you can't go wrong. And the next gun that I physically bought, because I tested these out because I wanted to get an idea of little 22s because I hadn't had one at the time, like a 22 pistol. And so I got the TX22. And I will say right off the bat that the TX22, it ran great. I think I put probably about 1,500 rounds of 22 through it within a month and had maybe 2 failures. Now, 2 failures, you're like, oh, failures aren't good. Like, I ran 1,500 through my Glock 43X and never had a single failure. Well, with rimfire, you're gonna have failures for the most part. I don't think that there's a rimfire that's actually like perfect, because a lot of times the ammo, you'll get light primer strikes, and it's not the gun, it's the ammo. So that's what every single one was. I never had a failure to feed or anything. It was always, if I had a failure, it was a light primer strike. And like I said, I had about 3 of them in the beginning, and then it just ran good. Now, I ran really cheap ammo in the beginning. I don't remember what it was, but I bought it in bulk in like a big box. and then everything else was a little bit more expensive. Expensive, very loosely saying expensive, because obviously 22 is really cheap. But yeah, so the TX22 is probably my favorite 22 LR pistol, and for the money I would personally buy it over the Glock 44 or pretty much any 22. That thing, it ran really good, and it came with a threaded barrel, which was really awesome. So yeah, that's my opinion on TX22. Next one, well, the next one I wrote down, I guess I posted this video before I posted the Vector video, which I didn't think I did, but anyway, is the Vism flip dot. So I got one of those little flip dots. I paid like 60 bucks for it or something like that. You know, it's a cool idea. The dot flips up. They got a Vism flip dot pro that I thought about checking out, but I'm kind of hesitant to spend 100 bucks on something that their first product didn't really work good for me. So it zeroed, but for some reason it just never seemed to, like, the zero stayed on the same point when I put it on the Vector 22, and it's like it held zero, but it didn't. It was really hard to see through it and everything. It was also partially because it's so low to the rail, and the Vector, just like, you know, when you're holding it up and everything, you really had to dig your head down low. But yeah, so I didn't really get a good impression on it. I wish I would have had a chance to mount it onto a pistol and get an opinion about it, but I looked into videos and a lot of people said they had zeroing issues and stuff. I no longer have the Vism flip dot, but if you're looking to get a red dot sight, especially something compact like that, I would probably take your money elsewhere. So that's going to be another one of those products that I say I can't really suggest you spend your money on. I'm probably going to get to about 20. At 20, I'll probably cut this video off, and then I will do a second video about it later on. Just because I don't know. I do everything from a cell phone. My editing, uploading, everything is done on a cell phone. So I don't know if I get a video that's too long, if I'm even going to be able to upload it. So we're at 11. I'm going to get to 20, and then we're going to go from there. So number 11 is the Vector 22 LR. So I loved my Vector. Always wanted a Vector. And then the 22 LR1 came out, and it was significantly cheaper. And so I was like, 650 bucks. It's a Vector. It doesn't have the whole mitigation recoil system, you know, the larger calibers do, but it was a Vector. So I enjoyed it. It had a ton of failures, an absolute, like, and a ridiculous amount of failures. It got better as it went. Out of about 1,500 rounds that I put through it, I at least had one failure for every 50 rounds for the first like 700 that I put through it. Sometimes more than that. For how much it costs, there are a lot of better options. So as much as I liked the gun, I can't recommend it. It's really cool, and if you really just want a Vector and you want to get one for cheap, yeah, I mean, it's a cool, like, show-off piece. My friends thought it was cool. I mean, it was unique, but it's not worth what it cost. I paid more than what I could have gotten an AR-15 for, and it ran like crap, to be honest. So yeah, I don't recommend the Vector 22. The next thing that I did a video on was the Easy Shoot red dot sight that I put on the Vector. So first I put the Vism flip dot on there. That was crap. So then I put a $20 Amazon red dot sight on there, and it's the Easy Shoot red dot sight, and that thing ran really well. In fact, the next Easy Shoot one that I purchased was even better, and that's what's on my MCK right now. So the little Easy Shoot $20 red dot sight was really good, and I highly recommend it for anybody that looks to get one. If you go back in my videos, there should be, I'm pretty sure I went through and tried to put links in the description for anything that was bought off of Amazon, because YouTube allows you to do that. You just can't put links to, like, say, like gunmagwarehouse.com and things like that. You can't put links to those, but you can put them to Amazon things. So there is a link, should be, if you go back in my videos, to the Easy Shoot red dot sight. That one worked really well, and it was only like 20 bucks. So if you got somebody that wants a little cheap red dot sight, that should be a good option for you. The next video I did, probably my most hated video that I've ever done, was the Ruger Security 9 Compact. So that is my friend's gun, and there's a story between why I kind of had a bad opinion about the gun. And a lot of people hate that video. I pissed some people off in that video. And it's probably because I was one of those people that said, well, I like the Taurus G2C better. Boom. Triggered. Everybody hates Taurus. Well, the Ruger's not a bad gun. And if somebody wanted to get one, I'd be like, yeah, I mean, my buddy's is nice. I like it. It's just for the price you pay. Now, this is pre-COVID prices. I got my G2C for 190 bucks. He bought his Security 9 Compact for, I believe, $299. For $100 more, he had failures that I didn't have. And, I mean, we had cases sticking in the barrel, and he had failures. And the Ruger Security 9 is very ammo specific, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. If you can figure out what ammo it likes, you're good, roll with it. But I run cheap crap. I mean, I've got to, especially right now, whatever ammo I get a hold of, that's what's going through the thing. And so the fact that I saw so many failures with him using it, and he paid more for it than I did on the G2C at the time. It wasn't for me. Now, it's not a bad gun, and I don't think Ruger makes bad products. I mean, they have one of the most, if not the most iconic 22 LRs ever, and they're known for a lot of things. They made their version of the 5.7, and from what I've seen, I haven't been able to get my hands on one, but from what I've seen, like, a lot of people love that gun. Ruger makes good products. However, that particular gun, I was more content with my purchase of the G2C than I would have been if I would have bought the Security 9 Compact. And that triggered a lot of people and made people hate that video, and I really need to redo it and kind of clear up that, but maybe I'll do that another time. So yeah, that was the next thing that I checked out was my buddy's Ruger Security 9 Compact. Next review I did after that was the Glock 43X. So I did my initial thoughts on the Glock 43X. Now, that was my carry, is my carry-ish. I switched between that and the G3C, and I know some people are going to be like, well, why would you do that? I like them both. I don't really have favorites, but the 43X is a very, very nice firearm. I really like it, and I do not regret that purchase. Seems to be that's a really trending one too. In the groups and stuff, there's constantly people that are getting the 43X. That's like one of their best-selling firearms. They created an MOS version. I really like the idea that they gave you the ability to mount an optic onto it, but the rail is pretty specific. I think it uses the TRL stuff, Streamlight or whatever. Those work on that, but all the Olight stuff does not fit the MOS because the way how skinny it is and stuff, they just don't clip onto it. But you can get the Recover Tactical, which that's down on the list too, and make it work. But yeah, so my 43X, if you are on the fence about buying a 43X, I 100% recommend it. That was one of the probably best firearm purchases I've made of 2020. Next thing that I checked out was the Olight PL Mini. So the PL Mini was one thing that I gave away on this channel, and yeah, the PL Mini, I brought it up earlier in this video. If you are looking for a flashlight, I love the PL Mini, and I think that's a great option of something to get. However, if you've got the budget to spend, the Olight Balder Mini, because you get a green laser, I mean, you don't have to use it, but you get it. And if you don't mind it just being a tad bit bigger, the Balder Mini is worth the price difference. But if you're trying to stay under 100 bucks and you want a really solid flashlight, the PL Mini is definitely not a bad option, and I'd recommend getting one. In my videos, there are links to the description where you can get them from Amazon, so if that's something you're looking into, it's a good choice. Next video I did was checking out the SIG P365. So the P365, I did the video kind of saying P365 versus 43X because that's something that I've heard a lot of people bring up, and I don't think that's a fair comparison. They're two totally different types of guns. Now, I would compare the P365 to the 43, and if you compare those two, the 365 blows the 43 out of the water, in my opinion. Now, don't get upset with me, but I think the 365 is better than the 43. You get a rail. It feels really good. It feels comfortable in the hands. I would have to get used to the mag release spot for quick like reloads and stuff, but I really was on the fence about buying a 365, and I still want one, but I just can't see myself spending the money on it right now. But yeah, so 365 is an awesome firearm. That was one thing I checked out, and I really liked it. Then I did a video on the Glock 17. Now, this isn't the only Glock 17 I shot. Then I shot one that had like an RMR and some other stuff done to it and everything. But this one was just a factory Glock 17, just kind of checking it out. Because the Glock 17 is a very iconic gun. It's the original Glock. Now, this wasn't the like Gen 1. This was the Gen 3, so there was some minor differences and stuff like that. But yeah, Glock 17, I really don't need to talk about that. There's a reason that law enforcement and military and everybody carried that for a long time. So that's what I got to say about that. We checked out the SIG P320. Now the SIG P320, this is gonna, it's my favorite gun I've shot. I really want a P320. The only reason I haven't bought one is because, to be honest, I'm just gonna do videos on it and talk about the same stuff that I can already tell you. It felt great. I loved the P320, and I really want to buy one, but there's so much other things that I could buy because I already have done a video on the P320, but personally, I would really like a P320 as my carry gun. That gun felt great shooting it. For some reason, it manages the recoil really well, and it's just a great firearm, and it comes with night sights. All these things that like, so the night sight part, that's something with my 43X, or, you know, if I bought a 19 or something like that, unless I bought like a higher up model, you got to buy the night sights and stuff. And for the P320, it's like the same cost as the base model of the 19. So P320 is definitely a good gun, and I highly recommend it. That is my favorite gun to this date that I have shot. The thing I checked out was the JM4 holster. So that's that magnetic retention holster. That thing was pretty awesome. I like that you can kind of like click it onto stuff whenever you're not using it. Like I can walk in the front door, click it up near the top of my door. It's out of the reach of children, and it's just sitting there. The only downside to it is pulling your gun out and reholstering it. I don't trust reholstering it just by like sliding it back in. I physically pull the holster out, reholster my gun, then put the whole thing back in, which is actually really easy to do with the JM4 tactical holster, so it's not a huge issue. But yeah, so that's my opinion on the JM4 tactical holster. It's really cool, and it's a very unique thing, and I would recommend it. It's a little expensive, I guess, but pretty solid holster. So the last one I'll talk about is the CZ SP01 Tactical. So that's a pistol. That one was in 40, but you can get it in 9mm as well, and that's a super solid firearm. I enjoyed the time. I got to borrow it for a week, and it shot really well. It was super smooth and everything. So for the price point, it was close to like the MC Operator Beretta 92 FS or SF. It was close. The Beretta was much nicer. It was just all the custom work and stuff. It was really nice. But the CZ, for like the price point, a really solid firearm. I wish I knew more about those guns, that I could really get like deep into them, because they're really nice and everything. I just don't know enough about them to talk about them too much as far as using it and everything. It felt really good though. I had a great time, you know, getting to have it for a week, and definitely something, if you were on the fence about buying one, I think you'd be super happy with your purchase. But that is number 20. I still have 30 more things to cover. I'm gonna do that on another video. This one has went on pretty long, and hopefully that this will even let me upload. I'm not entirely sure. So I got a ton of editing to do, because I want to put clips of, you know, everything that I discussed on here in this video as well. So between adding all that together, that's quite a bit of stuff. If you did like this video, hit that like button down below. Subscribe to my channel right now. By the time you're seeing this video, this may have ended, but I'm giving away an MCK for a 43, 43X, and 48. So if you go back to my video 2 below this one, that one is the video that discusses it. But any of the links down here in the description that go to my other social medias, there are links on how you get entered. So check that out. Subscribe to the channel. Tons more videos like this to come, tons more reviews to come, and all sorts of different stuff. So subscribe to the channel. That's what I got for you. I'll catch you later.